Hello and welcome to Impact Stories on AAU TV. AAU TV is the voice of higher education in Africa. Impact Stories is dedicated to celebrating academic mentors on the continent. And I'm privileged to have an illustrious son of Africa who has come back from Canada under the Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship Program to impact knowledge at the University of Education, Winneba. Follow this discussion on our social media handles and on our dedicated website, tv.aau.org. I am the host of the program. My name is Ransford Bekoe. Let's go for a short break, and when we come back, we will delve into the discussions. Stay tuned.
My name is Julius Peter Tib. I'm pursuing Diploma in Information and Communication Technology at University of Dodoma, College of Informatics and Virtual Education. My course is all about information and communication technology. It's based on how to pass the information and how people can get that information. There are so many, but actually the basic are like system developers, computer networking and analyst, and system analyst in general. College informatics are very good compared to other places. We have a very nice library, so as a student can be very comfortably to study. We have internet access, so if you feel like you need more information, you can access through it online. We have a very nice classes compared to other places, so as student can be comfortably and like to be in class most of the time. We have extra classes for studying, personally studying. We have very nice cafeteria and so many. If someone needs to goes up with the technology, compares now this day technology are very fast, I advise them to join SIVE. I mean College Information and Virtual Education. This is a very nice place for someone who wants to be a very professional IT. You can be able to know many things about computers and information at all.
Welcome back from the break. You are still tuning to AAU TV. AAU TV is the voice of higher education in Africa. Just before the break, I had indicated that I'm interviewing an academic who is from the diaspora. Precisely, he's from Canada, and he lectures at University of Toronto. He is an educationist, he is a researcher, and he's a writer. And back here in Ghana, he's a traditional leader. It is my privilege to introduce Professor Juaben Sefa Dei. Professor, welcome to AAU TV.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Prof, we will have to delve a little bit into your background.
Right.
And then we talk about you as an academic, and then we talk about the Carnegie African Diaspora Program. Can you let us know a little bit about who Professor Dei is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you very much for the opportunity and having the time for us to chat. Right. I was born in Ghana, right? And I schooled in Ghana. I went to Ghana National College in Cape Coast, and then after that I went to the University of Ghana, Legon. Fortunately, I did get a scholarship to do my master's at McMaster University, and then upon completion of my master's, I went to the University of Toronto for my doctorate. Okay. Right, and that was I got my doctorate in 1986. 1986. Yeah, and I did my postdoc at the University of Windsor. And then in 1991, I got a tenured track appointment to the University of Toronto. So I've been at the University of Toronto since 1991. Okay. And I was full professor in 1996. So since 1996, I've been a full professor at the University of Toronto. I've also been head of the department at the time called Sociology and Equity Studies Education. And I have been and currently also is a director for the Center for Integrative Anti-Racism Studies at the University of Toronto in Canada.
Yeah, just before you left for abroad, what were you reading at the university?
Yeah, I was reading sociology and then also archaeology. Okay. Yeah, sociology and archaeology.
Did you have any mentor at that time?
That's a good question. I think I see my mentor has always been my mother, okay. Right? But academic-wise, I think all my professors, right? Because I know there was Merrick Posnanski, and then the late James Akwanda, who were all very impressed about my academic work, and also the sociologist Fiajo at the time, right? But I see my mentor has always been my mother, because our dad died when we were very young, right? My mother was the one who looked after us. Unfortunately, 2 years ago, 3 years ago actually, she also passed away in Canada, and we brought her to Ghana for the burial, right?
How easy was it for you to, have a scholarship to read sociology at the master's degree?
I think McMaster University gave me that scholarship. And I just applied. I applied for the scholarship and won it. And actually, I was also in line for university at the time. University of Ghana had this program where they would also be sponsoring students for their postdoctorate, right? But I got a McMaster scholarship. So after my national service, I left, right?
But was sociology a very popular program, academic program?
No, actually, when I went to anthropology, social
anthropology.
but social anthropology is offered in the anthropology department, but in Ghana, social anthropology we see as sociology, but also, yeah. So I think it's a question of, I think, what the focus was on, right? And I'm more interested in questions of traditional African cultures, but also interested in questions of history and what the connection between history and culture in that regard.
You left the shores of Ghana in 1979.
79, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. I left the shores of Ghana.
That was to read the masters.
Yeah, to do the masters and then continue for the doctorate. But for the past over 15 years, I've been coming back and forth to Ghana.
But earlier on, why did you not come back?
No, it's because I was a student, and also after the degree, you have to make sure you have cemented your feet, right?
But you should have come back to.
Oh yeah, Africa. But I was. In fact, I was, because in the 283 I came to do my research, and I was coming also. Yeah, I was coming, but just in terms of institutional linkage, right? Yeah, institutional.
But I thought you wanted to pick up an appointment, a teaching appointment or something.
But that time is different from now, and I think I see what you mean. But that time is different from now in terms of where you want to also cement your feet. And I had a family also in Canada at the time, so yes,
so family joined.
Right.
Yeah. But do you have a strong linkage to Ghana or any institution in Ghana apart from the Carnegie?
Oh yes, yeah. No, before the Carnegie, I through the former vice chancellor of University of Education, Professor Nana Adusei Sefa. In fact, there were many universities that were interested in me having some, but at the moment I wanted me to come to Winneba, right? And I like Winneba because it's a small university at the time, fledgling, and I thought there were possibilities for that university. So after Professor Nana Adusei Sefa, also I developed ties with the vice chancellor who came after him, Akwesi Asabre Ameyao, right? And then the current vice chancellor, Bruni. I have all connections with all of these people, right? And of course, having been here, I've developed this long relationship with Professor Kola Rahim, right? Who we've been working together for over a decade, right? Around issues of indigenous knowledge. And he's been very, very supportive, and he's been very, very instrumental in making sure that I won the Carnegie for the years 2015, 2016, and then 2018 and 19, which have been attached to the University of
So the Carnegie grant, it's only taking you to Ghana?
Yes, yes. Although University of South Africa wanted me to at some point, but also University of Development Studies. But I've been, so far, I've been attached with University of Education, because there's more to be done here in terms of that, right?
But University of South Africa, UNISA gives you an award.
Yes.
In 2017.
Yes.
I thought it's got
2012.
2012.
Yes.
I thought it's got to do with the grants.
No, that I was, because you see, remember, even before the Carnegie, I've always been spending my summers with universities in Africa, University of South Africa, Adeniran College, University of LASU. What is LASU? Yeah, Lagos State
University.
Yeah. So yes, so even before the Kennedy, I always had these connections with.
Now let's look at two educational cultures.
Yeah.
We have one in Africa and then one
In Canada.
in Canada. Is there any distinction between the mode of delivery in terms of curriculum, in terms of teacher-learner relationship?
Not really. I think it depends on the people you work with, right? For example, so in Canada, for example, we have people who are interested in these questions about student-led supervision and learning, right? So I'm working with graduate students. In Canada, most of my students are graduate students. In fact, they are mostly PhD students, right? So there's that sense of independent study and inquiries, right? And then you come to SACOS and IRIS, right? SACOS, IRIS is the Institute for Educational Research and Innovation Studies, and SACOS is the School for the Study of Community and Technology Education Studies, right? And they are mostly working with graduate students, right? So I've always been involved, and so the question of independent study has been very, very central in their delivery, right? Where as you give lectures, and then you are in sort of a committee circle with the students and dialogue on the questions that are very important for investigation and that. Of course, there's research in that. So the mode of delivery in that sense, to me, I think I see similarities. It's different when you're teaching undergraduates, where sometimes it becomes where the lecturer then gives a formal lecture and then the students write down notes and that. But I think with graduate school, you're more into the consultation, the discussions with students. Occasionally, there's the academic sessions that you have, right, on important topics, right? So I see that as they are more connecting than difference. Right,
and you want to specialize in indigenous knowledge?
Yeah, no, I have.
Okay.
Yeah, over the years, right? I have over the years.
What is so
I'm more interested
about it?
Yeah, I'm more interested in the question of decolonization, decolonial knowledge. And one of the things that I've argued in some of my writings, and other people have made the point that, to me, you can't talk of decolonization or decolonial knowledge without also interrogating the whole issue of Western science knowledge. Because Western science knowledge, while we can talk of some contributions to knowledge that has been built, of course, no knowledge is immune. All knowledge is borrowed from each other, right? And so Western science knowledge itself has borrowed from other forms of knowledge. But the problem is that other forms of knowledge have been either devalued, have been marginalized, or negated in the universalization of Western science knowledge. So the particularity of Western science sometimes is universalized, right, without paying particular attention to the multiple knowledges that exist in communities. And to me, indigenous knowledges, African indigenous knowledges, right, have been devalued and marginalized. So it has been a passion to bring it to the fore for discussions. And this is shared by a number of scholars, and it's increasingly you see scholars talking about that.
So who is listening to this voice that you and your colleagues
are? I think we do have people who, but the fact that people will cite my work, for example, there are many people who will cite my work, but also I think even in the diaspora context, people will see it and I think when you come to Africa too, right, I think there are people, because I get invitations to speak on that, and there are scholars who are working around that. One of the things that I think is very, very clear is that sometimes we are our own harsh critics, right? Because we have been so fed with a dose of Western science knowledge that we see Western science knowledge and then you talk of indigenous knowledge and people see it as myth, superstition, magic, and it's not knowledge. But I think if you talk of this knowledge as indigenous science, right? Because it's knowledge about agroforestry, it's knowledge about indigenous science and technology, it's knowledge about indigenous farming systems, it's knowledge about folkloric production, arts and crafts, right? It's knowledge about, in terms of traditional technology, right? So it's a question of the definition of this body of knowledge. It's about soils, vegetation, climate, and that. They are all indigenous forms of knowledge that are embedded in that, right? And we need to uncover that. And not as a way to talk about how they are unique or particular, but also that they have something to contribute to the production of global knowledge. So
in carrying out or taking this revolution forward, what do you need from policymakers?
To pay particular attention to curriculum issues, right? That indigenous knowledge is about basically decolonization or decolonial education. Right. And we cannot do that without paying attention to curriculum, pedagogy, instruction, but also even the whole culture of the school. I think some of the tensions that we've been talking about is around whether even we can talk about these bodies of knowledge in the current academy has been constituted, where there's this hierarchy, there's also the rectangular shapes, learning within a four-wall classroom and that. So you always raise questions about what are the challenges of bringing these bodies of knowledge into formal institutions such as these places. But I think we need to work at the challenge, because there are possibilities, right, that we need to look through. We cannot say this knowledge is have to be taught outside the academy. I think there are some of us who would argue that when we look at the African institutions, right, and I'm not the only one who is arguing that Molifi Asante, who is a colleague, but also somebody who, I think if you ask about my diasporic mentor, then it's Molifi Asante, right, who is a very profound scholar in the US, right. We argue about that when we look at African universities, there is no African university aside. There are colonial satellites of the Western Academy, right. We have universities in Africa, but it's different from saying universities in Africa vis-a-vis African universities. Right.
Okay.
It's all about what goes on in these institutions.
Right. Have you ever considered the role of language in promoting this indigenous?
Big issue.
Yes.
Big issue.
How big is it?
Yeah, it's big because you can't even talk about indigenous knowledge even in the language, the dominant language, English, right?
Yeah.
Or even
and we don't even have scientific names.
Yes. Right.
In the local dialects.
So it's a very, very big issue, but we have to start from somewhere.
Okay.
So while we talk about it in terms of, well, how do we even begin to have a conversation around that, right? We also talk about it in terms of having these centers for the study of indigenous languages. I think it's very, very critical, right? We talk of bringing elders into the academy, right? Not all elders speak English or even French, right? Elders speak the local language. So when you bring the elders here, the language issue is very, very pertinent to that. Sometimes we talking about these African cultures, right? In the English language, leads corrupted language, right? So we have problems around that. So the language issue is very, very huge, right? And it goes back into history. I remember there was one point where there was this debate about should we have an indigenous African language that is taught in the schools, or we continue to use English language.
As the lingua franca.
Yes, lingua franca. And the debate was around, well, given that there's the heterogeneity or multiplicity of African languages, which languages do you teach? I've always seen that as a cop-out, right? You know, I think even if you can teach one African indigenous language to learners in schools, I don't care what language it is, but it's something for them to be proud of.
People are opting for Kiswahili.
Yes, Kiswahili, and I think there was a point why they were opting for Kiswahili, because it's the language of the smallest ethnic minority, so you don't get the dominant ethnic group reproducing its hegemony, right? So Kiswahili is the language of the smallest ethnic minority. I think that project was very important to be continued. Okay,
I'm talking to Professor Juaben Sefa Dei, who is a professor at the University of Toronto. We are going on a short break. Stay tuned. Just before the break, I've been talking to Professor Juaben Sefa Tweneboah, who is a professor at the University of Toronto. Now I'm going to address him as
Nana Adusei
Sefa Tweneboah, who is
Gyaasehene,
the Gyaasehene,
but currently regent of AASokore.
He's the regent of AASokore.
Yeah,
Nana, this is AAU TV, and the program is Impact Stories, where we are celebrating you as an academic mentor. Nana, you became a chief in 2007,
Yeah.
even though you were in the diaspora.
Yeah.
So how come, do you
Well,
have royalty in your
Yeah,
blood?
well, yeah, I think the TAsokore at the time gave the Dumakwaya stool to my family. So when my uncle died, right, then became something that, so I initially started as the Dumakwaya,
Okay.
and then I was
You
great.
graduated.
Get to Gyaasehene, which is
Okay.
higher, right?
Is it higher?
Yeah, and so it's been that. And then anytime the chief lives in England, right, but it's recently coming back to reside. But anytime I'm there and he's not there, I act as regent. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, basically that, right?
So what is the role of a Gyaasehene?
Gyaasehene is basically you watch the palace and then also the royals. You just like you try to bring peace and harmony into that. But you also in charge the two lands, the property in the palace and
You are wealthy then.
no, no, it's your guardian, right?
It's your
So
guardian.
you are supposed to watch over it, and if there's anything to an account to be rendered, you do that. Right?
Nana, how do you combine the academic work
Oh,
with,
to me, it's
the
easy.
chieftains? It's easy.
Yeah, I get that question asked of. It's easy. First of all, it's because I always these days I've been spending a lot of time in Ghana because I think I've reached the stage where I call it giving back. Right?
Okay.
So I always want to do that, and also I get requests from African colleagues who also want mentorship. They want us to help and assist, and I've also collaborations with African colleagues,
Okay.
right. So that always brings me to Ghana. And part of the projects I've been doing, the research projects of late, I've been looking at the question of schooling and difference in Africa. I'm now working on the questions of elders, the role of elders in Africa. So that's our projects that actually brings me. They all bring me to the continent, right? So to answer your question, how it has been easy. Once you have that connection, I think it makes it easy. But also, my passion for indigenous and indigeneity, and being also a traditional chief, right? It makes the connection very simple because you cannot be a traditional chief without being ingrained in the questions of African indigenous cultural knowledge, right? And that, so you see, it makes it easier to make the transition and be able to also practice what you preach and also learn from where you are situated or located in that context. Right?
There has always been a question on my mind. Can a traditionalist become a Christian or vice versa?
Well, I've seen some traditionalists who have become Christians, and I think, yes, I don't think there is. I think it's a question of you can be critical of Christianity and still be a traditionalist, right? And still be somebody who. I don't see traditionalists mean anything inimical to Christianity, right? I think traditionalists want to talk about African traditional religious structures or systems, particularly questions of African spirituality, without making a connection or say making religion and spirituality synonymous. They are not continuous, right? They are separate. And I think part of traditionalists make the point that before the coming of Christianity, we had our own traditional religions and African spirituality. What Christianity did was actually devalued and negated. And we need to go back and reclaim that. So I think in that case, they're very, very critical of Christianity, right? But I've seen some modern day traditional chiefs, right, who are Christians, who go to church and that.
And they pour libation?
Yes. Oh,
they
yeah.
do?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I know of them. And I think
it's not fetish.
Well, I think to me, I find it as a problem when you believe that your way of worshipping God is the only way, and therefore if people do it different way, then they are atheists. I think to me it's a question of believing in the chains of command, right? Traditionalists believe that you can speak to God through intermediary, right? Yeah. Whereas Christianity says you can speak to God directly, right? I don't think this should be a source of tension, right? I think we are all believing in the power of the Supreme Being, the creator of the universe, right? And that. It's just of how you get to. I think the problem has been, yes, the problem has been the Christians who have tried to devalue the traditional belief system. It has not gone the other way around. I don't see traditionalists who say Christianity is, no, I think they will leave Christians to believe in what they believe, right? And I think, to me, we do have, when we look at our traditional podcast social now, there are a number of chiefs who are Christians, right? And you don't see any tension with Paul and Nabi. You give one to Paul, what is Paul? And it uses what it sees.
Exactly.
It's just that sometimes those who believe, who say that in the Bible, do not translate that when it comes to the tradition.
reality.
Yeah, into
Yes.
reality, right.
Okay, now let's look at you as an academic and as a chief. What impact have you made in your society,
Right.
tAsokore?
Well, yeah, I think that's the question. I think I would like others to speak about the impact, because I don't like to blow my own horn, but I would like to think even getting youth to raise some of these issues about youth community development, I think is very, very important,
Okay.
right? Let's forget about contributions monetary-wise that I've made, because also I remember there was a time when a group of you came to me saying they've finished school, they wanted computers to put into practice what they had learned. And I decided to buy computers for them. I've brought people who are sewing machines to the community. We have fundraising initiatives that have contributed in that. So let's forget about that. I don't want to talk about that. But I think, to me, I'm more interested in education, right? I see myself as somebody who people see as a role model, right, in the community. That they will point to that, look at what his education is, who is highly respected, and therefore that itself, serves as a role model to the youth, and I think I see that as an impact, right? So you forget about the monetary aspect, but also I think being in the palace and helping initiate community dialogue, community development projects, right, to me has also been very, very beneficial. Even settling arbitration in the palace, leading conversations, trying to restore peace and harmony in the community are all things that I think we do collectively as traditional leaders and rulers, right, that are making impact in our communities. And that, right.
Before your final words, we shall go for a short break.
What do you think about when you think of success?
Success is about hard work. Success is about knowledge and applying it for the good of the community. Success is about skills development. It's about creating innovative ideas and building a hope and making it a reality. Success is about having big dreams and chasing them. Success is nurtured here. We as National University of Science and Technology stand as the only key you can use to unlock doors for success. When you think of success, think in other terms.
I'm interviewing Professor Sefa, who is from University of Toronto. We are going to talk about him as a CAD fellow and how he's been coming to Ghana and the impact that he's making in Ghana. Prof, welcome back to the program.
Sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
now let's talk about the CAF program.
Yeah. No, I'm excited about this program because I've been in it since 2016, 2017, and then 2018/19. And here, I've been working with colleagues, Professor Kula Rahim, Professor Namua Mensah, also before that, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, the former Vice Chancellor, Professor Akwesi Asabrea-Meyao, right? And these are all colleagues who saw the importance of having somebody with a diasporan voice also come in, and so that we engage in dialogue. And through that process, right, I have benefited a lot, right, from the academic exchanges, the conversations with the students, the research initiatives, the collaborations with the professors and the instructors, right? And that, I think it's not just a way of also giving back, it's a way of also taking in something, right? Okay. I think it makes me grounded in terms of my African research, right? That being able to come to Ghana and stay for this long and being able to, I think it gives you credibility, right? That you are not talking from the top of your head without being grounded. So I think that is, but also having the moments to mentor, to initiate, to dialogue with students, right? To talk to them about their own theses, their dissertations, their own research projects. Also initiating publications, right? I've been part of collaborative book projects with Professor Rahim, Professor Asabrea-Meyao, even with University of South Africa. We have colleagues there, Dr. Narida Pasha, and also Malu, right? And we are still even talking about collaborative book projects, right? We currently have 4 book projects that I'm initiating and working together with Professor Rahim, Professor Bruni, Professor Asabrea-Meyao, Jofus Anamwa Mensah, the former Vice Chancellor, who, as I said earlier on, was very instrumental in getting me to come to Winneba in the first place, right? And that's so.
A follow-up question. So how many students are you mentoring?
Oh, a lot. Yes, yes. Well, forget about the ones in Toronto, right? Even here, right? Because
But in Africa here.
yeah,
in Ghana.
well, yeah. I think what happens is occasionally you get students who come to you with their work, right? Or even we send you an email because they're afraid about your profile and that, or they know you are around and that. So I don't keep track. I don't keep track. Yeah, yeah. No, I
Can
think.
we say 20?
I would say no. I would say for in Africa here.
Yes. In
No,
Ghana.
I would say 20. No. I would say definitely a dozen. Yeah.
It's a dozen.
Yeah,
It's about a dozen.
I'm talking of doctoral students.
Doctoral students.
Yeah, I'm talking
but
of
not talking about first degree or second degree.
Yeah, doctoral students who would.
Okay.
And it's not just about here with, say, University of Education. Sometimes even Winneba, right? And then sometimes, institutions. Yeah, because they see your profile, and they would like to get in touch and that.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So
is there any formal agreement between University of Toronto and the University of Education, Winneba?
No, I think there is a card, the card fellowship,
card
which
fellowship.
Professor Kola and the moments have been very instrumental, right, working with that, the card fellow. But in the past, right, through even before the card, right, and Professor Kola will tell you more about it. Before even the card, we had this thing where I was made a fellow of SACOS, even before the card, right, which allowed me to come here and share. We were doing work on pharmacology, herbal medicine, plants medicine. We were doing some work around that. And we had this academic exchange with the University of Toronto where some students came here and they continue to come here. You met some of them too. They continue to come here. And then there was one student who went to Toronto, right? And so there has been, but we haven't signed a formal memorandum of understanding on that, but we've been initiating that, right, through this and other ways of doing it. I don't think we need that to formalize that. We can still get to that, but we have been working on that through the years with that.
Okay, my very final question. How will you encourage the other Africans in the diaspora to come back to Africa?
No, I think it's very, very important. I think this is where the CARD initiative is so important, right? And again, you hear more about how it's been very helpful to the host institutions, right? They do benefit a lot. And as I said, to me, I do also learn a lot. But I think it's very important. It's a way of giving back, right? So I normally would encourage people to come back as a way of giving back. Even it doesn't have to be for 3 months. It can be 1 month. It can be 2 months. To a way of giving back to that. So I think the CARD initiative is very, very important. It allows us to bring some of the knowledge that we have acquired back to the continent, but also acquired knowledge from the continent. So it's two ways, right? So it's beneficial. It also allows us to assist in collaborative work, whether it's publication, research, initiatives, and that. I think, to me, the fact that it's an African who is in relationship with African scholars and that is very, very important, right? Because in the past, what you notice is that sometimes we don't even value our own experts, right? We value experts who are from other. So the fellowship initiative allows the validation of our own experts who come here and work with African colleagues and scholars and students, right, and deal with that, right. We do come, even as you saw today, I mean, having these formal lectures, the questions the students ask, right. It also helps you to on your own work, right. Something that we don't talk about also is that although it's a CARD fellowship that allows people to come to the continent, we also don't talk about the benefits that it gives to even still the North American context, right? Because when I come here and I hear some of these questions, some of these issues, it does affect the way I teach when I go back to Canada, right? So even although it's an issue that is supposed to benefit here, right, it does have benefits also for even the North American as well. We can't escape that, right? This is the way of our global world, right? That knowledge circulates, right? And that. So when I go, every time I go, I have to shape some of my course outlines from the knowledge that I've gained from here, right? And benefits. And also the students, even when they hear about some of these initiatives, they want to come. They want to come to that, to come and. Professor Kola and I are in this collaborative initiative where recently we went to the north talking about collaboration. One of the things we talked about was where, if it's possible for some of these students who are in this African diaspora students who are in North America to even come to here, do some teaching workshops and that. So this is all part of the initiatives that come from these dialogues with that. So yes, so that's been.
Thank you very much, Professor
Thank you very much.
Nana Sefa Tweneboah for being a trailblazer on the CARD Fellowship Program.
Yeah, thank you.
We hope to see you very soon again on this university campus.
Sure.
Take care and God bless you.
Thank you.
And a good conversation, we always say, never ends. We can continue to talk and talk and talk. But this is how far time will allow us. Continue to stay tuned into AAU TV and be watching other interesting programs. Take care and bye.